Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can also go find our Overflow channel where you can find this in podcast form over. Just search Packer Fan Total Access wherever you get your podcasts. It is February the 10th. We are in that target zone now, guys. We're in that time range where when you get to the 10th of February, okay, what restructures are going to happen? Are they going to do restructures on contracts? Are they just going to roll with what they got? Are they going to just look to cut outright as you get closer to free agency? All these things matter, right? When you get in this time frame, like I said, around February 10th, February 15th, if restructures have not already happened, if they haven't leaked that information out through agencies, what you're going to look at is if a guy doesn't get a restructure that has a high cap hit, you're probably looking at them potentially getting cut right around the free agency deadline. Now, maybe they'll do a re-signing there as you get closer to free agency, but most of the time you get a pretty good idea of what the organization is going to do moving forward, right? And like last year, if I remember correctly, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, what you had happen was I don't think there was hardly any restructures. You know, the couple years before that, we had all types of restructures around this time. So the fact that you didn't have many restructures told you, okay, looks like they're going to run it back with this roster unless they add an addition, obviously, before the season starts. And we've seen that with Micah Parsons' addition. So today we're going to talk about something that kind of came out. I noticed it on an Instagram story from Elgton Jenkins. And, you know, Elgton Jenkins is one of these guys that he may be back as a Packer. He may not, right? He's got a high cap number. I think it's $24.8 million is what we were looking at. As it sits right now, I don't think there's any chance or very, very small chance that Elgton Jenkins will play under that cap hit this year. So the question becomes, do they cut him outright, let him test free agency, then bring him back at whatever the rate is if they feel like the number is doable for them? Do they go ahead and do a restructure along with a pay cut? You know, do they just do a simple restructure and kick money on down the road? Those are all questions that need to be answered, right? And they're going to get answered in pretty rapid fashion here as we're closing in on that date, like we said, around the 15th, where these things tend to get done. So we're going to give you all the updates because Elgton Jenkins actually posted on his IG story on social media, and it kind of perked my ears up like, that's interesting. Now, does it mean he's coming back? No, but we'll talk about all that. Before we do, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us part of your morning. We are not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you, talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you look for that type of content, hit like, hit share, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, everything you can hit here on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're watching on X, feel free to jump over to the YouTube channel. You'll see the link right there in my profile. Make sure you sub to the channel. If you join the conversation over there in the comments, it's much easier to kind of see what everybody else is saying about the whole situation. I see the comments were already pouring in before the show started, so we'll hit those here in just a second. Let's dive into the information, the latest on this. And again, this is something that happened on social media that kind of grabbed my attention. I'm following Elgton Jenkins over there. I try to follow mostly just Packers when it comes to social media, especially Instagram. All of it's become kind of a cesspool, to be honest with you. It just seems like more times than not, you scroll and go, don't want to see that. Don't want to look at that. Don't need that in my life, right? But so I tried to follow a bunch of Packer players to kind of keep up with what's on the forefront of their minds. Sometimes they'll signal things that are happening, like, you know, with Romeo Doubs. You've seen him signal. It was almost like he did a farewell tour, posting pictures of him with teammates and this and that. You could tell how his time in Green Bay has been cherished, but it looks like the market is probably going to push him in a different direction so he can make more money. So here we go. Elgton Jenkins, this is what he put up on the IG story. And I just, like I said, tweeted it out. He had IG'd this out, and you actually can't see it. The image is cut off below, but you see a guy wearing an Elgton Jenkins Green Bay Packers jersey, and it looks like he's in the cheese section, right? So I don't know if he was there locally in Green Bay, if he's where he's spending his offseason. We know he's rehabbing an injury, but he actually put 3 cheese emojis on this picture as well. Like I said, it got cut off. So it's like, is he signaling a return back to Green Bay? Is he saying, hey, look, we're in good standing here? Maybe they've already got a deal in place. It hasn't leaked out. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. And I did go ahead and ask a poll question here on YouTube. And the question is, Which option best describes your position on Elgton Jenkins? Would you release him, bring him back on a pay cut, or keep him under the current contract? I asked the same exact question over on X, and I'm going to try to keep up with that poll results. Okay, so right now, everybody get your votes in. Right now on YouTube, it's 64. Oh, it's changing. Look at this. 64% say release him. 36% say bring him back on a pay cut. 0% says keep him on the current contract. So I think we would all agree you do not want Elgton Jenkins back at $24.8 million, right? I think that's pretty common knowledge. Now on X, looking very similar, okay? Actually a little bit different. Look at this. Bring back on a pay cut is leading the way on X with 63.2%. Will release him 31.6%, and keep him with the current contract actually has 5.3% of the votes. So not a big goose egg there. Now, what does all this mean? What all comes into play? What are the likely scenarios, right? And guys, you need to go check out over at A to Z Sports and also on X. Go follow Wendell Ferreira, okay? He put a little piece up on that. I read that this morning. Great little quick read on kind of all the different scenarios, this and that. I asked AI, hey, what do you see as the top scenarios here? It pretty much said word for word agreeing with Wendell Ferreira. Here are the top options. So here are the 4 scenarios outlined for Elgton Jenkins. Release. This is the most likely scenario. Jenkins' salary jumps to $20 million in 2026, which is considered unrealistic given his recent play and the lower market value for centers. Creed Humphrey, the highest paid at 18, he makes $18 million. Now keep in mind, Tyler Linderbaum's looking to try to stretch that, match it, or at least get in the ballpark. The current market value is showing $17.7 million for Linderbaum. I think they're assuming that he kind of underplayed, Creed Humphrey there, which still hurts. I know, I get it. I know there's a portion of the fan base is like, I can't believe Goody chose Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey. 1 pick before Creed Humphrey went. I get it. I understand the frustration. Hindsight being 2020, I completely agree with you, right? But releasing him will create significant cap space, allowing the team to move forward with Jacob Monk or an extension for Sean Ryan. Pay cut. That's another scenario. Jenkins remains a better pass protector than Sean Ryan and has more experience than Jacob Monk. The Packers could ask him to take a team-friendly deal, similar to previous moves made with players like Aaron Jones in 2023, Preston Smith in 2024. However, if he refuses, a release becomes inevitable. Again, you could go to him and ask for that pay cut. I think as fans, we would all love to see that, right? However, that's going to be up to him. Why would you leave money on the table? Now, here's the thing, too. From Elton's standpoint, he's got to make a realistic analysis, if you will. Okay, yeah. If they want to bring me back, let's say at $18 million, right? Let's say they want to lower that number. Let's just talk base salary. Let's say they want to drop that base salary down to $15 million. So I'm taking a $5 million pay cut, okay? But they want to guarantee $3 million of the remaining salary, so I get a signing bonus right now. Okay, now I've got to weigh out what's the market going to look like for me out there. My contract is already overinflated, right? If I'm Elgton Jenkins, I know that when I hit the market, there's nobody that thinks he's going to get $20 million on the market, right? So now he's got to ask himself, what's it worth? What is it worth for me to hit the market? And let's say I do hit the market isn't there, and the market is only at $8 million. And now the Packers say, you know what, we've moved on. Well, you've missed out on that money that they would have potentially guaranteed you and brung you back here in 2026 with the Green Bay Packers. So he's got to weigh that out and say, okay, is that new number worth me packing up my family and moving to another city? Maybe moving to another place like LA or New York or somewhere like that, where the taxes are going to be through the roof. And it really cuts into my bottom line as well. All these things are going to come into play, right? So keep him as is an unlikely scenario. The team could decide his veteran presence is worth the $20 million for one final shot in 2026. They might add void years to his contract to spread out the cap hit, though his actual earnings would remain the same. So they could do just not a restructure, but I guess you could call it a simple restructure, tack on voidable years. But all that's doing, guys, is you're still paying $24.8 million for Elgton Jenkins in that scenario. That's why it's obviously listed as unlikely. You're just spreading that out. You're swiping the credit card and saying, hey, let's put that over the next 2 to 3 years, right? I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they should do that. What I would like to see if we're going to bring Elgton back is he's got to take a pay cut, okay? And we're going to guarantee a little bit of money for him to make it worth his while. Another scenario that I don't think it's in the Packers' best interest, because once you cut hit free agency, maybe he loses interest in coming back. But if you do that, if you cut him, you have got to be prepared for him to say, I'm done talking to Green Bay. I don't want to come back, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing for the Packers to do. I'm just simply saying you've got to be willing to cross that threshold there. I think it's also kind of operating in good faith if you allow Elgton to go out and get a fair offer, right? Go out and grab an offer that you think, okay, this is what it's worth, right? So I don't think that's a bad scenario for either party as well. Now, the least likely scenario, and even Wendell Ferreira talked about this in his article, is a trade. It's difficult to find a trade partner willing to pay $20 million salary for a player coming off a major injury and regression. A trade would only work if Jenkins agreed to a pay cut or a lower average extension with the new team. But if he were willing to do that, the Packers would likely prefer just keep him. So obviously, what it would take to put a trade in place is something that it'd probably make more sense for him just to stay in Green Bay for both parties, right? And when you look at his current contract, I just grabbed that there from Spot Track so you guys can kind of take a look at it. You see the cap hit at $24.3 million. I've always said 24.4. It's actually 24.3 is what they're showing now. The dead cap attached is $4.8 million. So you're essentially freeing up a little over $19 million if you cut him outright. Now, notice the dates here. $24 million guaranteed at signing bonus. That's already been allocated. You're good to go there. 2024 roster bonus, he gets $5.1 million if he's on the roster March 15th. So there's going to be a decision made before March 15th, obviously, right? That's, when the new league year starts. This is what I was talking about. If they don't do a restructure, if we don't hear about a restructure in the next 7 to 14 days, you're probably inching towards they're just going to cut him outright to save on that 5.1. And then, of course, you're going to save out on the salary there as well throughout the season of $18.5 million if you move on at that point as well. So that's kind of how the contract is laid out at the moment. Let's talk about his production. Again, I'm not saying PFF is everything, guys. If you got a better run blocking, pass blocking metric source website you'd like to use, hey, fire it into the chat. We'll all check it out. That's what we do here at Packer Fan Total Access. We're all fans kind of figuring this thing out together. But when you look at the PFF grades starting in 2019, 69.1, 66.9, 82.1, and that was his best year in 2021. So his best football, according to PFF, was in 2021. Now, 2022, 72.3. Not bad, right? Pretty good grade. Solid grade. Worth the money. 2023, 64.5. Now you're going, okay, probably overpaid, right, at this point. 2024, 65.7. Yeah, we're definitely overpaying for this guy right now. 2025, he drops to a 62.0. You're seeing a steady regression there, right? Slight setback or a slight kick up in 2024, but you're kind of seeing it looks like Elgton's best football is behind him here, right? And then, of course, you look at the injuries. I mean, he lasted, to week 10 essentially, and then he was out for the rest of the year. We'll talk about the injury in a second. Pass blocking efficiency, that's where they weight in sacks, and now you can kind of rank everybody across the league at the center position. When you look at, well, first of all, overall PFF grade, 22nd. Is what Elgton Jenkins ranked, okay? When you look at pass blocking efficiency, 98.0 was the efficiency. You say, man, that sounds good. That's great, right? That's a good efficiency grade. He was 23rd best in the league, okay? Behind people like Cooper Beebe, Corey Levin, Coleman Shelton, Ethan Pochich. You got John Michael Schmitz, sound like a country singer, Luke Fortner, Tanner Bordellini, Luke White. You hear these names like Nuke Weipler, Cade Mays, Jake Andrews, Connor McGovern. He's actually a free agent, if I remember correctly, out of Buffalo. Froholt, Ted Karras. You hear these names and you think, damn, Elgton's not as good as them. It's tough. It's a tough look, man. It is, Again, the efficiency grade weighted towards sacks allowed and this and that. He only gave up 2 sacks, don't get me wrong, but he also gave up 2 hits, 6 hurries, 10 pressures, right? When you weight everything into consideration here, they're saying, hey, he was the 23rd best center. I don't have a problem having the 23rd best center on our roster. I have a problem paying the 23rd best center $24.8 million. And again, that's the efficiency rating. These are the grades. The grades are suggesting he's 22nd right there in that same ballpark, right? I think we would all agree he's a good pass blocker, and he struggled run blocking this year. Sean Ryan is totally the opposite. Sean Ryan was pretty damn bad at pass blocking, but he was a good run blocker. So you got to kind of pick your poison there. And that's why I think neither of those guys are the answer for the future, which is why I want to see them go after Linderbaum in free agency. And if they don't go after Linderbaum or a McGovern or somebody like that in free agency and don't try to hit a home run, then maybe Jake Slaughter is your pick, right? Maybe there's another center that you like out there. Maybe it's Brian Parker, who's rumored to be going to be kicking into center and guard, right? Maybe he's the center of the future. Maybe you go get Bo Stevens to play guard, and, somewhere around the 84th pick, if he's still there on the board. And then you allow Sean Ryan to be your starting center, him and Jacob up. I don't know. I just feel like you need to make an improvement there at center. Now let's talk about the injury details, because this is something that's not getting talked about enough, right? This is an aspect of this whole situation here with Elgton Jenkins that's really, really going to play a role in whether or not he returns. Injury details. He basically suffered, the primary injury was a fractured fibula, a lower leg fracture, essentially. The secondary damage, however, he sustained was ligament damage in his lower leg/ankle area. So there's ligament damage and a break there, right? How it happened, obviously it happened there when the quarterback Jordan Love got sacked and rolled up on the back of Jenkins' leg. I think it was against the Eagles, right? Immediate status, he was placed on injured reserve on November 11th, right? Return scenarios. This is probably the most important part, right? Medical experts and reports suggest the following recovery timelines for the type of combined fracture and ligament injury. Keep in mind, guys, everybody heals different. We're always going to say that. 1, 2, it depends on how the rehab process goes. Are there any setbacks? Are we going to hear about those setbacks? Probably not, right? So there's kind of a broad perspective. I'm going to give you a best case scenario and a worst case scenario for the timeline of return for Elgton Jenkins. If the surgery, best case scenario is May/June of 2026. If the surgery and bone healing go perfectly, a typical timeline for a fractured fibula in an NFL athlete is 10 to 16 weeks for the bone itself. In a best-case scenario, Jenkins will be fully cleared for football activities by OTAs May or mandatory minicamp in June, allowing him to have a full ramp-up before the 2026 season begins. That's the good news. Here's the worst case scenario. Late August, September of 2026, start of the regular season. The worst case involves complications with the ligament damage, which often takes longer to rehabilitate than the bone fracture itself. If the ligament stability is slow to return, Jenkins might start the 2026 season on the physically unable to perform list. This would likely sideline him for the first several weeks of the regular season to ensure his ankle can handle the lateral movement required for an interior lineman. So again, that's the best and worst case scenario. Quick recap. Best case scenario, he's going to be good to go for OTAs. We're good. May and June, you're off and running. Worst case scenario, might not see him until, who knows, week 2, week 4, week 6 of the season if they have complications with the ligament damage. So again, when you take all that into consideration, this isn't a slam dunk, right? It's not a slam dunk at all. This is kind of a tough look. So I'm curious to know what you guys think in the chat. You guys are watching this back later in the comments. Let us know, how do you feel about the Elgton Jenkins options? What would be your choice of those 3 that we laid out? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, so you're in here hanging out with us when we go live in the future. We greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. All right, let's take the conversation to the chat here a little bit before we wrap up. Okay, looks like we got some super chats. Actually, that's from yesterday. Okay, got it. Those are from yesterday. Good deal. So let's see what the chat is saying here real quick. Chris Casualty says PFF is biased. I love it. Jenkins played so poorly and his effort was poop. Got to make sure everyone knows that's not acceptable. Same feeling with Gary. Plus, he's coming off fairly significant injury. Right. See, I've just showed you how I think he has not played well, Chris. But the effort, I don't know. The effort is, I haven't seen anything on tape that suggests Elgton Jenkins wouldn't give him full effort. Now, if you're referring back to training camp and the hold in, I get it. That's frustrating for fans, right? But if we can be real for a second, you put yourself in Elgton Jenkins' shoes. Why did he hold out? This very reason, right? He was hoping to get some more guaranteed money to make sure that wasn't going to be his last year in Green Bay. What do we call that? It's security, right? You want a little bit of security in case you get hurt. Okay, imagine if the hold in would have worked for Elgton and the Packers would have broke a little bit and say, you know what, we'll guarantee an extra 10 million of that 18 million next year, or an extra 5 million of that, right? Well, guess what? When the injury happens in week 10, he's got that extra money in the bank. All right, we're good. That's secure. That's what he was trying to do. So it didn't work, right? It didn't work. And now he's going to miss out on that money if the rehab doesn't go perfect. It might not even matter how the rehab goes. Packers may just cut him outright. But that's the business of the game. I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for multimillionaires. Just like I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry and defend, billionaire owners, or in our case, an organization that's got a lot of money in the slush fund, right? So when you look at all that, I can understand both sides. I can understand why the team didn't guarantee more money, because they thought this is a chance this could happen. I can understand Elgton wanting more money because this obviously happened, right? As far as the effort, I can't get into it. And as far as Gary, I don't. You know how I feel about this, Chris. I love you like a brother, man. You've been part of the show for a long time. You've been watching, I would argue, day one. Why people every chance they want to take a shot at Rashawn Gary is wild to me. But it is what it is, man. Obviously, you don't want him on the team, and that's cool, you know. But yeah, appreciate the comment there, man. Again, that's I agree with you on the play. It's rough. It was a rough play from Elgton last year. It's rough from the whole offensive line, which has got me questioning, you know, like, what are we doing? Like, how did the offensive line take such a huge step back, you know, especially after Goody went out and signed Aaron Banks, thinking this guy right here is really going to be a good stopgap. But Josh Martin in the chat said, I say bring him back and move him back to left guard and re-sign Ryan and have him stay at center. So he's saying let's move forward with Sean Ryan at center and have Elgton Jenkins, back to left guard. If we bring him back, I guess that's the question, right, Josh? Are you talking about bringing him back on a restructure or just bring him back at 24.8? Because if it's 24.8, I disagree with you. I don't want him back at that number. But if he's willing to take a pay cut and kick him back to left guard, I don't hate that. Maybe move on from Aaron Banks, go post-June 1 cut to free up that extra money next season's cap, and then and kind of move forward Elgton Jenkins at left guard. Sean Ryan being the start center, I don't think that's the answer either. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, of course, but appreciate you, man. Boz says, F it, put me in, coach. So Boz is going to be the new starting center. I absolutely love it. Let's see what Deadfish says. He says, cut Banks, move Jenkins back to guard at a restructured contract. Sign Linderbaum, sign Ryan as a backup, draft Bo Stevens. I'm going to read that one more time, guys. Deadfish says, cut Banks, so cut Aaron Banks outright. We did that last night on our mock-off season, right? We did exactly that thing. We did a post-June 1 cut. Move Jenkins back to guard. We went ahead and cut Jenkins, right? So in this scenario, he's saying move Jenkins to guard, sign Linderbaum to play center. So you're going to have Linderbaum at center, Elgton Jenkins at left guard. When you say restructure, Deadfish, again, like the previous comment, are we talking a simple restructure where we're not lowering his number, we're just swapping the credit card? Or are you saying, hey, we're gonna ask him for a pay cut? You know, if it's a pay cut, don't hate it. You can get him back, you know, 12, 13 million against the cap, and him, you know, so you're going to shave off what, darn near 10 million off the cap if he's willing to take that huge of a pay cut. If he takes that pay cut and plays left guard, I don't hate it with Linderbaum, him a center. I think that is a great step in the right direction. Also, and Deadfish did confirm their pay cut. Got it, buddy. So if you approach it that way, right, if you look at it that way, then essentially what you're going to have is you don't have to worry about the roster getting younger, specifically at offensive line. We know we kind of talk about that being a little bit of a problem here, right? So you keep Elgton Jenkins. Now, you could even make it from a sense of, hey, you can protect yourself as an organization. Like, hey, if you stay healthy and you play well, you're going to get paid a bunch of money. We don't care to pay you extra money, right? You could have it incentive laced, I guess you could say. I don't know why he would do that if he thinks he can get more on the market, guaranteed, not incentive based. But yeah, Linderbaum being a veteran too, man, that helps the age thing. I don't hate it. Deadfish. If he's willing to take a pay cut, I don't hate that at all, man. I think that's a great idea. So, all right, let's go to the questions over in Patreon real quick. We've got a mailbox set over there. I'm going to try to hit this from time to time when we do go live. Okay, it's just another perk of being a member here in the Patreon group. Just go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. $3 gets you access to everything, including the chats, including the mailbag questions for the show, all that good stuff. We also will include like super chats. Like you want to make sure that your question gets read on the air, throw it into the mailbag over for the questions for the show. We just try to keep it somewhat civil. You know what I mean? And we got one in here that's going to be a touchy subject. I'm going to hit on it because I respect the people that are a part of our Patreon group. And you guys know I try to welcome all opinions and try to treat people the same and not try to feel like I think that one of the greatest compliments we get on this particular program is people who watch and listen say, man, I don't feel like you guys are talking down to me. You know, I don't understand why anybody would, you know, anybody who's got a podcast that talks down to other people and their opinion. Now, if you're being an ass, you're being rude, that's different. I'll just boot you from the group, right? It's real simple there. If you're being disrespectful to anybody else, you know what I'm saying? But the people that you got a podcast and you think your opinion is more important or more valuable than other fans, I don't know, Bob. Last time I checked, you're not in the league. You know what I mean? You're not sitting in the general manager's chair. So, yeah. Johnny B with the first one here. Let's see what he has to say. Johnny B says, any thoughts on Deontay Lawson, linebacker from Alabama? That's an interesting, man. I haven't even heard that name. Let me do a quick search here. So Deontay Lawson, linebacker from Alabama. Uh-oh. That didn't work. Let's do this. I'm going to search real quick if you guys will bear with me. I should have had that pulled up. I knew I was going to hit these. And yeah, so Deontay Lawson, interesting. That's a name we haven't talked about, right? We got him in the 98 spot, Johnny B. 98, not bad, man. out of Alabama. The one thing that's kind of pulling him down a little bit is Walter Football at 84. We got an 83.8 grade on him, so that would suggest he's actually closer to the 80 mark than the 100 mark, where he's sitting in the 98 spot. Consensus Big Board had him at 72. PFF Big Board had him at 48. If you don't bring back Quay Walker, I don't hate it. That looked like it'd be a solid pick. If you got him at 84, right, and free agency is going to play a huge role in whether you're going to be aggressive in certain aspects of this type of stuff, right? But if you get him at 84, I don't hate the pick. But if you can get him, 120? I think we're picking at. If you can get him around 120 or something like that, solid pick. Johnny B, the fact that you brung him up, don't let me forget, okay? Throw it in the general chat. Remind me to do a scouting report on Deontay Lawson. I think that would be a fun one. That way we could throw that scouting report up in Patreon, and you guys will have quick access to that. Here we go. Chris in with a mailbag question, says, Clayton, hindsight being 2020, always, Chris, right? You and I both, buddy. Should policy have brought home John Schneider from Seattle to replace Goot? I think so. It's not that easy, right? That's the problem, Chris. Now, let me answer your question. All things being equal, if the Seahawks called us and said, hey, man, we want to trade you John Schneider straight up for Brian Gutekunst, people are laughing right now going, why are we even talking about this, right? This is how I got to look at it. If they were to come to me and say, hey, would you rather have John Schneider than Brian Gutekunst? You don't have to give me extra picks. You're not getting any extra picks, just a trade for trade. I would take that trade. Now, I know there's Goody fans out there, and I get it. I don't think he's a bad GM. I just think there's other GMs that's done a much better job. I feel like Matt LaFleur has gotten the hate that Goody deserves. That's just me personally. Maybe not to the point where Goody should be fired, but to pretend like he's not, pretend like he's like an upper echelon, like top 3 GM. I mean, Howie Roseman has run laps around him. I can't remember the name. Is it Veach? Whoever it is, the GM in Kansas City has ran laps around him. Seattle has now ran laps around him. It is what it is. Again, if you see it, you got to say it. We are always a cup half full type show here. I try to focus on the positive stuff. People don't want to be miserable all the time. We're watching a game that we love, a sport that we love. I don't understand the people that tune in to watch football just to be depressed and be angry all the time. It's just, again, fan how you want to fan. But I try to think of things half full. That's one that I can't just continue to stick my head in the sand and go, oh, no, Goody's perfect. Goody's done everything right. And there is a portion of the fan base that feels like that, yeah, I would much rather have John Schneider than Brian Gutekunst. Now, with that being said, there's no scenario whatsoever that Ed Policy could have brought him home to replace Goody. We kind of see Schneider as he recently went to Seattle. It feels like that, right? Guys, the reality is he went there in 2010. He won a Super Bowl. What was it in 2012, 2013, somewhere around that range, I believe. So this idea that, we could just bring him home, you'd have to probably trade the farm. And even then, I don't think Seattle wants to give up John Schneider. They love that dude. He's done a phenomenal job. Now, if the question is, we should have kept him in the house and promoted him to general manager, there's no one on the face of the planet that thought that in 2010, right? This is before John Schneider went out and made a name for himself. So with all that being said, at the time, Ted Thompson was your general manager. Keep in mind, in 2010, they went and got him because Ted Thompson he built a bully in Green Bay, right? And we went on and won a Super Bowl. So you're not going to move on from your general manager when you're the reason. Your general manager essentially was the reason John Schneider got the looks that he did. If the Packers had finished top 10 in the league or bottom 10 in the league, right, or missed the playoffs, they're not going poaching John Schneider from our front office, right? So it is kind of a catch-22 there. But to answer your question, Chris, straight up trade John Schneider or Brian Gutekunst, I'm going John Schneider all day long and twice on Sunday, man. So that's how I would see that. Appreciate you, Chris. Randy Cleavers, here's the controversial topic of the week. You can hear the sarcasm in my voice. I'm going to build this up. We're going to divide the fan base right now. We're going to go viral. That's what we're going to do. You ready for this, guys? Randy Cleavers says, thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show? Being it's the 250th anniversary of the nation, WTF was that? So I know you're not the only person, Randy, that felt like that. I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody. I could care less about the halftime show. Being on social media, I was mind boggled at how much it divided people. And there were some really strange takes. There was a lot of fake pictures, and I fell victim to too, a Bad Bunny burning a flag. And I'm like, man, I don't like that. What are we doing? We're going to, and I get the 250th anniversary. That evidently that never happened. That was an AI generated photo. So Papaw Bailey's like, okay, that didn't even happen. So, well, what does he represent, personally and this and that? Do I want kids seeing that type of stuff in the performance? No, I don't want to see, I don't want to see women out there twerking and all that. I don't. Now, is that the first? That's the other thing on the other side. Is that the first time that's happened at the Super Bowl? No. I mean, you guys remember Janet Jackson? So it's not like it's new, but again, I don't tune into the Super Bowl or any football game going, all right, let's study the halftime show. Not that Randy does either, because again, he's not the only one that feels like this, right? Now there was an alternate Super Bowl halftime show, right? For, hey, if you're not looking for that type of edginess, this is a more family friendly type approach. I get that people want to tune into that, it's to each their own. If you want to watch that, cool. If you want to watch that, cool. I want to watch football. I could care less about. Now, the biggest issue I have with the Super Bowl halftime show, and I said it last year, was like, it has nothing to do with the Spanish for me. Like, I mean, whether you got a problem that it was all in Spanish or not, that's cool. That's on, that's your personal opinion. Just like it's somebody else's personal opinion that said, I don't need to know what the words mean. Okay, cool. When you look up the lyrics, it's like, whoa, now they're facing some FCC backlash, right? If he did use indeed the original lyrics, because he broke a bunch of rules that you're not allowed to, do on television like that. But the whole thing as a whole, I just hate that a freaking halftime show is going to divide the country as much as it is. Now, on the other side, people are saying, if you didn't like the halftime show, you're racist. I ain't subscribing. What the hell are you talking about? Somebody's racist because they couldn't understand the lyrics? Like, what are we doing here? And he poured fuel on the fire earlier in the year, if I remember correctly. He said, well, you got 5 months to learn Spanish or whatever, right? It's like, no, I'm not gonna learn a new language because I've got to be tuned into a halftime show. I'm looking at this, the Seahawks defense and going, they playing shell? What are they doing here? Oh, they're rotating? No. Oh, wow, that was 7. We went 2-man under combo there with some match principles. That's interesting. Make a note there. That's how I watch a game. I don't watch a game going, all right, what's going on with the Super Bowl? Now, I will say this. This was really interesting to me, if I can get it to pull up. TMZ, I think we would all agree they're the majority of the base of people that follow. You see, I don't follow TMZ because I don't like to get into the drama, and I don't like Hollywood, guys. Let's be honest with you. I don't like movies. I've talked about this. Jacob talks about movies all the time, right? He's a big movie buff. He loves movies. Most of my family loves movies. I can't stand watching movies. I'm going to invest 2 hours of my life to watch a human being lie and pretend he's someone that he's not, or she's someone that she's not. Like, what are we doing? There's so much more that I want to watch and learn about this world, whether it's, my Christian faith or, like the other day, I had someone else who had a different faith. They reached out to me and they said they appreciated that we don't, he knew I was a Christian, but he knows I don't force my, my belief system on anyone else. Right. And he reached out and was like, hey man, I appreciate you not pushing it on. I'm actually this. All right, cool, man. You know what I did? Hey, tell me about yours, man. Tell me about your walk in faith. Yeah. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it completely, but why can't we be civil and just agree to disagree on certain things, right? And support each other as long, hear me very clearly, as long as this one belief system, the root of it right there in writing says, hey, you're supposed to harm other people. I can't get on board with that. I don't care. That's not constitutionally compatible with what we are as a country, right? But anyway, so TMZ, I think we would all agree, they have a portion of the fan base that I thought that Bad Bunny would win this poll. So TMZ tweeted this out and said, who had the better halftime show, Bad Bunny or Kid Rock? And Kid Rock won 66% of the votes. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that, because again, you see people do poll questions all the time. And that's why I like to poll on Twitter, because I want all Packer fans. I usually say Packers fans, like whether you're following me or not, get your vote in. I want to know how Packer fans feel, right? And this wasn't a small sample size. It may be more now. I don't know if it ended, but there was 339,000 votes here. So to answer his question, I went that route and was like, I don't know, man. What are people saying? It looked like 66% like that. Again, I'm assuming that's the majority of TMZ followers, but anybody could vote, right? So yeah, it is what it is for me. But again, if you like Bad Bunny, do your thing, man. If you like Kid Rock, go watch it, enjoy it. I want to watch football. That's what I want to do. So that's just me. And I know it's boring. That's why Mandy refers to me as a stick in the mud. So there are your mailbag questions. We got a little bit off the rails there with the Super Bowl talk, but hey, man, you guys fire them in there. As long as we can answer them in a tactful way, then I'm on board with it, for sure. So, and I see we got some of the comments rolling in. People, probably disagree. I don't want to put too much up here, and I don't want to cause division, guys. That's what I want to do. You know what I mean? You guys do your thing, as long as we're being respectful. Chris Casualty says, Clayton, I sincerely apologize for taking a shot at Gary. You know ball more than I could ever dream to know. That's not true, Chris. You could start digging in today and pass me up tomorrow. The game's always changing. You guys know I talk about that all the time. I really respect your opinion. I have an issue many times of acting like a preteen. No, you don't, Chris. But you're not the only one that feels like that, Chris. I need to do that poll question that we just did for Elgton on Gary, man, because I think a lot of people would probably approach it that way. The same with Gary, like, hey, I don't know, they would probably cut him outright. That's just my vibe I get. But I would definitely be under the, hey, bring him back on a discount. You guys know I want everybody back at the right price. Sound like the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase here, don't we? I want everybody back at the right price. But unfortunately, that's just not how it works, right? It's just not how it works. So let's see if we got anything else in here. I want to hit on. Here we go. Ron Sample says, does Gannon mostly run a similar scheme as Seattle? It's really not that simple, Ron. Let me do this. Let me pull this up. We'll show you exactly what they did. Arizona did in 2025. So, people, they'll, not that you're doing this, Ron, but some people will just make it sound like, I heard a former player the other day say, yeah, it's just going to be cover 7. They're just going to run 2-man under. I'm like, cover 7 ain't just 2-man under. Like there's zone match principles there. And it's also about, whether you're going to lock, and there's specifics around the game plan. And it's way more than that. That blew me away that comment was, I was like, what are you talking? You can tell when people don't know what they're talking about. And I'm okay with that because there's a lot of things. Hell, I just laid out the halftime show analysis for you. You could tell I don't know anything about that stuff, right? Other than it just pissed me off that people got so divided about it. But when you look at it, when people look at these defenses, they just try to throw it like, example, when we hired Jeff Hafley, what was the buzz, guys? And I know everybody in the comments could nail this right now. The buzz was, finally, we're going to man coverage. We're going to be playing bump and run man coverage. And I went, what are you talking about? Like, you can go back and watch the show. You can listen to the show. That's a beautiful thing. Anything I say is on recording. You can call me on at any point. And I love that because it holds me accountable to just spewing a bunch of BS when I don't know what I'm talking about, right? I'm always going to say, I would rather say I don't know, let's find the answer together, than to sit here and try to pretend like I know something, right? But remember, that was the talk, was Jeff Hafley's going to play bump and run man. And I'm like, well, that's what he did at Boston College. Well, first of all, he wasn't calling the plays at Boston College. And second, college is a different animal. College is a way different animal. Like, it's night and day. So I went to an interview where he was at Boston College, and, I pulled an interview up and played a portion of it. And Jeff Hafley kept referring to my friends in the NFL, And I immediately went, who are his friends in the NFL? Robert Saleh, right? Where did Robert Saleh come from? Robert Saleh came from the Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn, Legion of Boom days in Seattle, right? Okay, so what was that? Here's what's interesting. Pete Carroll and that defense that they ran in Seattle was mostly cover 3 buzz, okay? So it was just traditional spot drop for the most part with a safety that buzzes the box, and that was Cam Chancellor, just a dog, absolute dog. Remember they had Earl, can't think of his name right now. Oh, he was a great safety for a long time. He was their post safety, and I think it was Cam Chancellor that was the thumper that would come into the box, right? And of course you had our boy Richard Sherman on one side of the field playing deep third as well. So when he would play deep third, that would deter, because Richard Sherman in his prime was a dog, especially in that zone read defense, right? So when he was in that third, they would stay away from that side of the field and they would steer in the opposite direction. Well, what's that allow you to do? Even though he's not traveling with their number 1, if you put their number 1 over there, you could still bend the coverage in that direction, because we know he could probably cover half the field on 1 or 2 particular snaps if you get a certain look that you like, right? So anyway, that's where they came from. Well, when Robert Saleh went to San Francisco, everybody thought that he was still playing, that he was playing quarters coverage. Everybody thought Robert Saleh was playing quarters, and he wasn't. What was he playing? He's playing cover 3 match. Well, cover 3 match, if you've got a 2, let's go, say you go a 2x2, and that safety that buzzes, if you're in a cover 3 match, guess what happens? If the 2 goes vertical on that safety side, that now becomes man coverage. The post safety may help bracket if there's no immediate threat attacking him deep. However, that cover 3 match is what they were running, and people thought they were running quarters because they would notice that safety would drop back and it ended up being a 4 deep set. Well, that's because at the time, teams were still stretching the field vertically with with spread West Coast spread offenses, right? Like McCarthy ran, the 4 wides and things like that. So it's not as simple as just, all right, here's what they're going to do, here's not what they're going to do. Back to the question, Ron Sample, does Gannon? Well, let me go back. I'm sorry. I brung all that up because Halfley came into the league, and what did we run? Well, we actually ran a lot of cover 6 that first year. Remember, we ran some Tampa 2. We ran some cover 3 match. There was a significant amount of match in there. I would argue we probably played more match coverage with Halfley than we did Joe Barry's last year, to be honest with you. So again, it's it all kind of comes full circle in that regard. Now, when you look at what they did, Arizona Cardinals last year, they played cover 4 25% of the time. Notice it doesn't say cover 4 match, okay? So when you see cover 4, what it's essentially saying is it could have been zone match, it could have been country quarter spot drop, meaning 4 people ended up deep regardless, but how much of that was match principles, we don't know. That's not baked into the equation. All we know is we ended up with 4 deep on at the end of the call, okay? 25% of the time. So that tells me he's going to be conservative with the coverage. Now, also, the second most ran defense he had was cover 3, okay? Again, probably a significant amount of match coverage in there at 27%. Actually, he ran that the most, 27%. It's just in dark blue, the 25% in cover 4, because he ran that more than anybody else in the league, him and the Falcons, which, by the way, who was the Falcons coach? You guys remember? Wasn't it the guy who just got the defensive coordinator job? You guys help me here. Raheem Morris, right? So Raheem Morris is going to San Francisco. Well, when he was in Atlanta, he played quarters as much as anyone as well, right? So, Turtle says he loves quarters, right? It depends on what you mean by quarters, but yes, some people think that quarters is just cover 4. That's not the case, right? Quarters, I've always been taught quarters is zone match. So if you're playing quarters zone match and that 2 doesn't go vertical, that safety roams a little bit more. He's got a little more freedom depending on what the specific call is, because there's a multitude of quarters calls as well. So it's where you get a lot of people that they just kind of blend everything together, and they have made it way more complex than it actually is. I see J. Cole had it there. Earl Thomas. Thank you, Jay. You're right, man. That was Earl Thomas. Yeah, Mike got it too. He was a dog, man. He's a great post safety, right? So, but yeah, generally speaking, yes, so Turtles, Gannon does love quarters, right? And there will be cover 7 mixed in. There will be cover 6. I mean, you see the numbers here. 27% cover 3, a lot of it probably match. 25% cover 4, right? Like that cover 3 is probably, if the 2 had went vert on that box safety side, if you were in a nickel, and that's the thing too, it all changes whether you're in nickel or you're in base or whatever. But if you were in nickel there with the nickel, let's say it was a nickel 4-2-5 or a 2-4-5, because I think he played a 34. I could be wrong. The 2 not going vertical makes it cover 3 as opposed to cover 4, right? So 27% cover 3, 25% cover 4, or a quarters or a variation thereof. 15% cover 1 man, so he still played some single high middle field closed man, right? And then you went 14% cover 2 zone, 7% cover 6. That's the big change here, okay? We are going from a defense that was 16% cover 6, which is quarter, half the field's cover 4, the other half is cover 2. Also match principles that could make that a quarter. So again, us not being in the huddle, we don't know what the call is. That's why on Chalk Talk we go, I'm assuming it's this. I'm not in the huddle. I'm not in the meeting room. I don't know what the exact call was. Nobody really does. That's why you got to be careful on criticizing certain players just because they're the closest defender, right? Sometimes we get that right. Sometimes we get it wrong. But the biggest change you're going to see is I think we're going to play significantly less cover 6. Now, here's the thing too. He knows that when he was in Arizona, everybody's going to go watch the tape in Arizona's defense when they play Green Bay, right? There's going to be a little bit of a question mark on how is Green Bay going to attack this thing defensively. So everybody's going to go watch the Arizona Cardinal tape, and that's how they're going to game plan for Jonathan Gannon's defense. So he could switch it up. We may see that quarters number drop down to 20%. We may see the cover 6 number blimp up to, 18%, more than Halfley ran. So again, everybody runs the same defense is what I'm saying. It's true. This idea that, well, this guy just plays man coverage and this guy just plays quarters and this guy just plays cover 6 or this guy just plays, 2-man under and Pat, everybody play. You notice, is there anything here? How many of these boxes are 0%? There's not very many of them, right? Like, let's look here. Cover 2-man is the lowest ran thing in the league right now because teams are really pressing into the run. That's how you run people. You run people out of cover 2-man under essentially. And 2-man under is 2 deep safeties, everybody man underneath. And you typically play with underneath leverage and you're funneling it to the safeties. So you're kind of taking those underneath routes away. But when you got 2 on the shelf, they're backpedaling right out of the gate. Everyone else is locked on their work, eyes on their work, right? Then you're going to be vulnerable against a run. You're probably playing with a light box and you're playing with negligence from a standpoint of I've got to have my eyes on the work as opposed to fisheye focus on the running back. So, but yeah, when you look at that 2-man under was ran the least. Outside of that, I mean, every team in the league played cover 0 man goose, right? It might have been 1%, but everybody ran that. Cover 1 man, you can see the lowest number of cover 1 man in the league was the Raiders at 8%. And the Vikings at 8% as well, right? But they still ran cover 1 man. So the big thing to key in is like, what are specific teams doing? Like the Raiders, they played cover 3 45% of the time. Well, who was their coach? It was Pete Carroll, right? Well, they got their asses cooked. 0.17 EPA per drop back. Now, the Packers, this is something that's gone really, really unnoticed. Again, how do I say this in a nice way? When something goes wrong, right? When something goes wrong in a season, typically what the fan base will do is they'll key in on one person. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault, right? I mean, you've seen it time and time again. 2018, it was Mike McCarthy's fault. They ran him out of here, right? Briefly after that, it was the special teams' fault. So we ran those special teams coordinators out of here and you end up getting Rich Bisaccia on down the road, right? After the special teams, it being the special teams' fault, who was it? It was Aaron Rodgers' fault. And I know there's still people that pretend like this wasn't the case. I remember people saying he's refusing to throw across the middle. He's not running the plays that Matt LaFleur is running. It was Aaron Rodgers' fault. So they crap can Aaron Rodgers. They move on from Aaron Rodgers right now. It's the Jordan Love era. Cool. Now whose fault is it? Well, it became Joe Barry's fault. Well, you run Joe Barry out of town. All right. Now whose fault is it? This year it got real loud on Rich Bisaccia the last 2 years and Matt LaFleur. I feel like Matt LaFleur, that loudness overtook Rich, although when we did the poll questions, only 20% of the fan base actually wanted Matt LaFleur gone, right? So that was just a loud minority. However, that was the person that's at fault now. Rashawn Gary has been sprinkled in very, very handedly throughout the whole process. It's like when there's nothing else to point a finger at, well, get rid of Gary's ass. He's overpaid. Like that's the guy that they key in on. So unfortunately, that's just how, as a fan base, typically, and it's not just us, it's not just our fan base. Every fan base does that to a certain extent, right? Like Will Campbell the other night, he was the guy. It was his fault that the Patriots lost, right? Like he was getting his butt kicked. Is it on the coaches to give a little extra help there? Is it on the player to play better? Or could it just be that Seattle was the better football team and now New England knows, all right, here's our weak spot. We got to shore this up. If Will Campbell ain't the guy, we need to get the guy in here. I don't care if you took him number 1 overall, right? And maybe he'll improve too. Who knows? So anyway, that's a fun conversation. I could go all day, man. You guys are awesome in the chat. Again, I want to thank everybody in the Patreon group as well for the questions over there. I also want to give a shout out to @football_insights. Anytime I show these graphics like this, that's where they're coming from over on X. You guys can find them for free over there as well. If you guys would, make sure you go give them a follow, show them some love over there because it is great information there for sure. So. And also shout out for Wendell Ferreira. That was a good article he wrote this morning as well. It seemed like the AI agreed with pretty much everything he said there, which was really interesting. So that's it, guys. I'm going to get out of here. Again, let us know in the comments. How do you feel about everything we covered? Every time y'all hit us up in the comments, it helps the algorithm. Every time you spin those laces, hit the like button. It helps us in the algorithm. Same thing, subbing to the channel, sharing the channel, all that good stuff. We're blowing up like crazy. I need a big favor. Everybody who's hearing my voice, hop over to our Overflow channel. Wherever you get, not channel, but podcast, wherever you get your podcast, search Packer Fan Total Access. Packer Fan is one word, okay? Packer Fan Total Access. You'll still find our content on PackerNet. we were kind of flooding and clustering up their network with so much content that you're still going to get 5 episodes there a week. But also, if you're looking for the extra content that you hear us do here on YouTube, just make sure you go over there and find us at Packer Fan Total Access. So, with all that being said, we're out, guys. Greatly appreciate everybody in the comments, everybody in the chat. Y'all were absolutely awesome. If news breaks, we'll go live again here shortly. I may try to get the guys together to do a show tonight. I plan on doing a 15-minute show this morning, but the questions were so good. The comments were good. We greatly appreciate everybody hanging out with us. So we will see you guys out there on the trail. Hey, do something nice for somebody today. You've seen the division around a stupid-ass halftime show. Just encourage somebody today, man. Be nice to somebody. And I challenge you to try to do it to somebody that disagrees with you, you know? Say, hey, man, I can respect your opinion. Hope you have a great day, dude. That's it. That's all it takes, right? So appreciate everybody. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go, Pack, go.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.